parts, not payments. We fixed an exhaust leak with a cam swap. I put way too much lube on the bump stick, and I say, got the chop action going. Start with removing everything off the top. Your air intake. We went ahead and pre-soaked the exhaust manifold flange bolts so I can get the exhaust pipes off the manifolds and let those soak, because those can be a pain sometimes. Next, I'm going to come in here and drain the coolant, and while that's draining, I'll start popping the intake off and go from there. Yeah, we're going to take the so I got to fix that exhaust leak. The bolt is broken off in the head, so I got to pull the head really to get to it. You could try to get a welder in there, but more of the bolts are probably going to break off as we go. It's very common on these engines for the exhaust bolts to break. And I have a set of exhaust bolts, and I have a set of lifters, and I have a set of push rods, and I have a set of head gaskets, and I also have a camshaft. So, you know, family's out of town right now, and I'm unsupervised, so I'm going to take this thing apart, and hopefully I can get it back together before they get home. So, alright, we're going to tear into it. So I got the water drained, water pumps off, alternator power steering pumps off. We got the VTEC, that's variable valve timing, cam timing actually, so whatever you want to call it. I'm going to start pulling the plug wires off the plugs. There's a coolant temp sensor, unplug it, and pull the coil wires off, pull the coils off, and pull the intake off, and then we'll start in on the exhaust manifold bolts and pulling the heads. So moving right along. Never messed with this, so we'll see how that goes. I don't really know what I'm getting into, so all right. Impact's too big. So ever since I got this truck, I've wondered if it's had an engine put in it at some point or some sort of work, because it was very clean on the outside, and there's some marks here throughout the engine, paint pen marks, which usually means like junkyard. Like when you buy something from a junkyard, they'll paint pen it. But this truck supposedly has 220,000 miles now. But I mean, look at these heads. Maybe it's had the head's replaced at some point, or maybe the whole engine, I don't know. Also the wiring harness, like if you look right there, the loom was missing on some of it, so that made me think somebody had been in it at some point. And I mean, that thing's like brand new. So we're gonna tear into these things though. Put cam lifters, valve springs, head gaskets, and fix the exhaust bolt. That's really why we're doing it. That's what I tell myself to justify taking apart your daily. So here we go. So I got the heads off. The bottom end cylinder walls and stuff, they look like they might have 200,000 miles on them, but the heads look really good. So we're going to clean those up and put the new valve springs in them. Yep, now it's out. So there's the old one, and the new one's in a trash bag over there, so we'll get that rounded up. The block cleaned up pretty good. I just cleaned it off the best I can with some brake clean and a little plastic grinding wheel, and we're gonna get the springs swapped out on the cylinder heads, valve springs swapped out, and we'll be ready to start sticking it back together. Got a little moisture on the driveway, but we'll clean that up here shortly. But yeah, pretty happy with it, the way it went. One thing I did have to do to get the cam out, I did have to pull the radiator. It was 1 inch too short. Mark told me that. I didn't want to listen, so I tried it and then we took it out. So yep, rolling along pretty good.
Let's sing a song. No. Just to cover all ground, we didn't touch the tanks. What's on there? Man, after another cold night of frostbite misery, he wondered if we could make a car. Are you stiff? Oh, God, yeah. Now, back.
So I got a little nub welded on there. You could weld a nut or a washer and then a nut, but I've just found just put a nice little glob on there and then grabbed it with some vice grips and just unthread the bolt. It should just come right out. Sometimes it's hard with the try to weld a nut on to get it to weld properly because of the coating on the nut, and you really need to grind it all off or dip it in acid where you can actually weld the nut on. But as you can see, this works just as well, and you'll see here when I'm done. So there's the bolt, came right out. Let's see how I welded just on the end of it. Oh, you can't. I'll hit that with the grinder real quick and polish it back up. we'll be ready to go in the morning, slam it all together. So when you go to put your heads on, you want to make sure you follow the manufacturer's torque specs and the pattern in which you tighten it. Since I was, if you're using ARP bolts or ARP studs, you want to follow what they recommend. But so what I did is I did 22 foot-pounds on these bolts first pass, and then 90 degrees for a one hole pass around, and then 70 degrees roughly. I don't have a degree wheel, so I just, that's 90, that's 70. And then on your final pass, you'll torque these top bolts that are much smaller to just 22 foot-pounds. So anyways, I have to go on a little road trip to get a different timing cover because we deleted the variable cam timing. And so I have to go get a new cam cover that does not have the magnetic phaser for the old cam gear. So I'm gonna get cleaned up, go on a little trip. Got your push rods in, your rocker guide plate, and then your rocker arms here. You're gonna want to torque these bolts, but when you do, make sure the valve is all the way up and closed, so you're not actually torquing against the valve pressure coming up and giving you an inaccurate torque. So turn the engine over as you do it to when the cam's all the way at the bottom of its lobe, lifter's at the bottom of the cam lobe, and that's when the most play will be in the rocker. It'll be the loosest point. Then you can tighten and torque your bolts. So we got it all back together. Changed the oil, put fresh oil in it, because when you take it apart, coolant gets in the oil and dust and dirt and all sorts of garbage. And then refilled my coolant, and we're gonna fire it up. Well, I hope you enjoyed this Parts Not Payments on the cam swap on the work truck. I'm gonna leave you here with a little cold start action with some chop. Yeah, fires right up. Action going. So we're gonna keep working on it. Got some customer cars I'm working on, make a little money so we can keep this operation going for a little while. I'm gonna head off to work. And I'll see you next time. Like and subscribe. Thank you.